What's good? This is Marcus dafingaz back at it again. Shout out to Ando McDonald on Facebook who reached out. He wanted to get a felt piano sound on the iPad. I sent him a bunch of links to some different felt piano sounds that are free on the desktop. Told him to choose one or two, and then I would see if I could import them into the iPad. So he chose one of them as Summer Felt by Piano Book. So here I am here. What I did was played each note into Logic from this Summer Felt piano from pianobook.co.uk. Definitely check that out. I played each note, then I exported each note from the MIDI to the audio. I played them at the highest velocity at 127. And then what I did was I went through and used the Control X in Logic to strip the silence out of each file and then create individual regions for each note here. Here I am double checking each note to make sure there's no clipping at the beginning and just playing through some of those sounds to make sure there's nothing at the end. I realized that one of the regions at the end did not strip the silence out, so I had to redo that whole process where I chose these different settings, filtered out the silence noise, adjusted some of the front end and back end, and created individual regions for these notes, and then continued the process, just double checking each file to make sure the note is clean. This process probably took about 30 minutes or so. Not too long if you know what you're doing. If you don't know, the first time I did this probably took me like an hour and a half. I was figuring out things and how to figure out how to sample and take these notes and chop them up. But I do have a process down now. I've done this before with other sounds. So here I am. I have the sounds in as audio files. What I'm going to do is export each audio file to a folder on the Finder there, and that took a little bit of time just from Logic, maybe a couple minutes exporting each file. And I believe total it was 88 files. So once these get exported onto a folder in the Finder window, what I have to do then is go into each file here and label them the note name. I know that the lowest note was A-1 and the highest note was C7, and then you just go up the musical scale from there. So you see me labeling the notes here, and I'll explain why I have to label them this way. As we import them into the iPad, it just helps to get them to the right location when we're dragging them to the notes or when we're importing them into Audio Layer. So labeling each note here, and then after each octave, what I'm doing is making sure I have 12 notes per octave because in the Western scale, each octave has 12 notes. So after I go through all 12, I get to that next C. I just double check the last up to the last C to make sure it's 12 notes and I haven't made a mistake, because what you don't want to do is go all the way to the end, especially with 88 files, and realize that you made a mistake labeling it. Also, what I didn't do is record multiple layers. I just did the loudest layer at 127. By layer, I mean velocity. I recorded the loudest velocity of each note at 127. You can get very into the weeds if you want to do multiple velocity layers, different, maybe soft, medium, loud. I just did the loudest, and then if you play it soft, of course, you can play it softer when you import the sounds into the iPad, and I'll do a demo at the end of this video of how they sounded. So I labeled all of them. Here I am, airdropped into the iPad, into the Files app here. So here it is in my Files app. All the notes are labeled there, and what I would do first, what I did was created an instrument in Audio Layer. So here in Audio Layer, if you click at the top there, you can create new instrument at the bottom, and then name the instrument. I named it Summerfelt piano, I think. If you hold on this screen here, you can go to import samples or insert samples. But first, what you have to do is you have to make sure the samples are in the Audio Layer folder in the Files app. So what I had to do was, what I did was duplicate the Summerfelt piano samples folder, just so I don't lose any of the original files in case something happens with importing and exporting and things. So I duplicated this folder. You see the number 2 next to that. What I'm going to do is copy that folder over to the Audio Layer app in the Files app here. So it gets a little bit confusing, but once you get the process down, you sort of get the workflow and everything together. So I have that Summer Felt Samples 2 folder. I'm looking for on my iPad here, Audio Layer, and then I hit copy at the top right, and then that Summer Samples 2 has been copied to my Audio Layer folder here. You can see the names here of those notes. What I want to do is get rid of that 2. I just want to just name it Summer Felt Piano Samples. Got rid of the number 2 just by renaming that folder there, and then go back into Audio Layer here. This is where I can hold on this screen, and then I can do insert samples, and this is where I can go through my folder and download those samples. So what you do is when you find the folder that has your samples in it from your Files app, you go to those three buttons at the top right next to cancel, and then you can hit select all and select all those notes. And then you can import them here into Audio Layer. So here I am importing them. With this, I did auto map by the file name. That's where the file name comes into play. So there you go. With the file name embedded into the file, it'll automatically map them across the keys. It'll map it to the exact name it needs to be. And then what I did finally was just export this audio layer instrument so that I could share it with the community. There will be a link somewhere. I'll maybe put it in the description where you can download these files. So after I zipped, and the zip process actually took a while when you hit zip. I did the samples and the Sommerfeld piano. You don't have an indication that it's doing something, so you just have to wait. I waited some time, and then I saw those exported objects there. And then what I did was, once I airdropped that to my computer, and then what I did was the same process, but I did it for BeatMaker 3. So here we are back in the Files app, and I'm looking for copying the samples over to BeatMaker 3. So I'm copying it from the Files app, downloads the summer samples over to BeatMaker 3. You see it copying there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to BeatMaker 3. You see the samples are there, just double checking everything imported there. I'm going to open BeatMaker 3 here, and then we're going to build this instrument in BeatMaker 3. So here I am opening, looking for the files. There they are. You hear them playing. And with the labels there, what you want to do is you want to match the note name to the note that's at the bottom, or the note on the key. So you see those C-1s, C0. That'll tell you that octave range. So there, like I said, there's a little bit of music theory here, but the notes labeled, it makes it really easy where you can drag and drop. It took me a while to get the drag and drop process down because I don't do this often. So I had to drag and drop, and I was dropping them on the wrong note. So I had to get them to the right note. And you can do that by, at the top, you see where it says root key, low key, and high key. Those root key, low keys, and high keys, you can actually adjust where each note lands. So I just need to make sure that where it says A1, that the note that I drop it to matches the label of the note. And for those that don't know, there are notes that's called enharmonic. So when I get to the A sharps and A flats and things, BeatMaker 3 labels things as sharps, and I labeled mine as flat, so that when I'm doing A flat, it's actually G sharp. So if you don't have music theory, that's fine. If you don't know the theory, that's fine. Don't worry about it. But just to give you some insight, so I'm just going to speed this process up a little bit. I figured out how to get these things sort of on the note that I need to get them on without doing too much editing. I think if I had my finger sort of towards the bottom of the note, it added it with no problems. Some of them I messed up, so I had to get readjust manually. But here I am just going through the process, dragging and dropping. The way the samples imported into BeatMaker 3, they were labeled by note, so I had to do each note at each octave and then go to the next note for each octave. So I had to do, D0, D1, D2, D3, instead of doing each note within one octave range. Again, very confusing for those that don't know the music theory, and I can try to explain it. If anyone has any questions, I can try to explain it further down the line. But yeah, so here we are looking at me dragging and dropping these notes in one by one. I'm almost done here. And I think there's some things that I still don't know as far as sampling in BeatMaker 3. I would love for Intua BeatMaker to help me figure it out. The way that the samples sound in BeatMaker 3, they don't sound like a piano. It sounds like a sustained piano. The length of the note. So you hear how the note is sustaining. It's not necessarily cutting off. So I'm trying to figure out how I can have it cut off unless I'm doing the sustain pedal. But as you see, all the notes imported fine. Again, that sustain pedal thing, I got to figure out. I'm not holding the sustain pedal. That's just how the notes imported. I'm going to open audio layer here so you can see how they sound different. And I want to figure out how to get the audio layer, the non-sustain sound. See how they chop like a normal piano unless I hold the sustain pedal down. How do I get that sound over to BeatMaker 3 without it sustaining the note? Again, not a limitation of BeatMaker 3. It's just something that I have to figure out on my own. And I was trying to figure it out a little bit here, but I think there's just something I'm missing. I did raise the polyphony because what was happening is I couldn't play 2 notes at a time. But now you see that build up there. So just trying to figure out what needs to happen there. I think maybe if I take off one shot, maybe switch it to hold, we'll see if that'll work. What I'm gonna do actually right now is I'm going to open this up again, and then I'm going to play it live, and we'll see how it goes. So here I am in BeatMaker 3 on the iPad, and this is the piano, summer felt piano samples that I imported into the iPad. I'm not holding the sustain pedal down. I'm just going to play the notes. So you see how the notes are ringing out. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is go in here and see if I can adjust maybe the sample layer. Let's see if I do hold. I think that's what I wanted to do. So if I change the layer trigger from 1 shot to hold, you get that sort of natural piano sound that I want. So I'm going to play it here with the sustain pedal. I'm just going to play a little riff. So I'm getting a little bit of a delay. Let's see what's happening. Let's see if I turn this back down. Now, I think I want to keep that high. And let's see how loud it is. So I would probably turn up the, let's see, maybe I'm going to turn this up a little bit. I think we were at, we're at about -7, so maybe I'll turn this up. Let's go up to, we'll turn it up to 7. So yeah, I actually like that. I'm gonna make sure I save this. This is gonna be called Summer Felt Piano. In parentheses, I'll just put piano book so I know where it came from. And then I will copy samples and hit save. That might take a moment to save. And then what I will do is also share the BeatMaker 3 bank with the community, maybe in the description below. Cool. So now that's saved. Here we go. We're gonna do just an A and B between Summerfelt and the audio layer. So actually, I have my octave set differently here. I did turn up the Summerfelt piano one a little bit louder, the one in BeatMaker 3. But other than that, exact same samples. Sounds great. I'll just play a quick idea. So that was the BeatMaker 3 version, and actually I'll just replay it in audio layer. Here we go. So yeah, other than that, I mean, it's a little bit of a long process. I think from start to finish, from first getting the sounds and sampling the sounds in Logic Pro and exporting them all to the iPad and building it in Audio Layer and BeatMaker 3. It could probably take between 1.5 hours if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it'd probably take 2 to 4 hours, but it's a great learning process. Hopefully this helps. Feel free to replay this video in slow motion to try to figure out what's going on, what I'm doing here, and also feel free to reach out if you have any questions. This has been Marcus dafingaz, and hope everyone is doing well. Stay safe and be well. All right, peace.